Welcome everybody to a new episode of Dan-A-Plooza. My guest at this time is Marvin Wynn.
How's it going?
Thanks for being on the show. Let's go ahead and start into some questions. Marvin, can you talk about the comic book The Edge?
So The Edge is a drug that gives abilities, but at the cost of the person's life. So generally, it's a countdown to when they expire. So the more they use the powers, the faster they're going to expire.
And how did you become involved in that project?
So I am the creator of the book. I like to say that I probably started writing that around, I want to say 95, 96. And I'll say that when I first was doing it, it wasn't very good. It wasn't up to snuff as far as I was concerned. So took a short hiatus, took some classes like writing classes, some business classes, and then didn't come back to it until around 2008, 2009, when I met the current artist on the book, Mark V.
Okay. And how long does it take to write the story out and put the book together? What's the timeline frame?
It varies. I mean, sometimes it could take 6 months, sometimes a year, sometimes 3 months. Yeah, it's a process because you have to figure that there's so many moving parts, and each part can't start until the other part finishes. It's like a conveyor belt. So right. I start the story. I hand it off to Mark. Mark does the pencils. Mark does the inks. And then it goes over to Luis to do the colors, and then it goes to James to do the letters. Then it comes back to me for any finishes. So at any time during that process, you could have a complete and total breakdown where something has to be redone. Sometimes Mark will make a change to the way the paneling works, which could actually alter the story, which means I have to go back and change the script, because then I have to hand the script to Luis to do the colors, and he needs to know what the focus on that panel should be. Is it night? Is it day? What the focus is to draw the eye to it, and then if something changes in the panel, something could change with the dialogue. So then I have to send it back to James because I had to change the dialogue to fit into the paneling because maybe it's smaller than it was before. So I said that it's a process, and it just depends on how you want that work to go. You could get it done faster, but you could lose some of that quality because then if certain things don't fit. So let's say that I don't change some of the dialogue and Mark made a change to one of the pages, the dialogue could could cover a person's face, or James could say, well, it doesn't fit here, so let me move it to this panel. And then it starts to make things look uneven or unprofessional. So, I mean, it's a process, and it could take anywhere, like I said, from 3 months to a year to finish one book.
Oh, wow. What has been the response from fans and people who just enjoy comic books when they see your book and read it and then talk to you in person, like at these conventions?
I mean, the response has been pretty good. I mean, I think it overwhelmed me a little bit at the beginning because like I said that we've been working on this book for a long time, and we had just now gotten into the Diamond Previews catalog, which then opens us up to the whole entire world. So we're not just talking about local people and stretching out into like New York and West Virginia and Florida and places like that. Now we got our hands on into the whole world where we can reach people in Scotland or people in Africa and other places just around the world and get feedback from them as well. But like I said, the feedback has been really good. Right now we have issue number 4 available for pre-order right now. So right now that's where I'm pushing issue number 4 because we're going into final order cutoff next week for those orders.
And just to show everyone at home, this is what the comic book looks like. Which issue is this one?
That's our promo pretty much for issue 1. It just shows the entire team ready to go into action pretty much.
I love just all the beautiful artwork. It reminds me a lot of the Avengers.
Yeah. So I mean, we get Mark gets a lot of the anime words, and then it's the colors. The colors make it pop. So it gives it a really an animated look. And when you're reading the book, with just the way that Mark and Louise complement each other on the artwork.
And what is the future goal for you and for the comic book?
I mean, it's just to keep going and keep telling the story and seeing how far it goes. I mean, we're pretty far ahead on issues. I'm still working on it, but I keep saying we're finishing up issue 18, and like I said, it's that process where I'm continuously going back and listening to some of the feedback from what people were saying, and it gives us an opportunity to make changes for the future, where we're not locked into something. We can still go back and do a little bit of change. Like we've gone back into some like even earlier issues, like issues 5 and 6, and made little small changes that I think services the book a lot better.
And has this actually helped you when you go to other conventions and you meet other comic book artists? Do you kind of network and share ideas and feedback?
We do. I do a lot of that when at cons, because what I do is I give them data on the group on Facebook that I created called Indie Network, where we go over all that stuff. Like I share all the things that I've learned over the years, because when I first started out, like there weren't resources for that kind of stuff, and a lot of people didn't want to give up the information. So now that I have the information, I'm giving it away freely on Facebook. Whoever wants it can get the information from me. That includes like spreadsheets of data, information on printers, information on stores and contacts at stores and things like that. Like I'm freely giving away information if people want it.
So when everybody got together, is it like you guys were friends always and decided to do this, or did someone refer someone else, and you all came together? Like, how did the whole group form to create this?
So I think it's the old adage of the advantages of the internet. So without the internet, these things are really difficult to put together, because if you're not in the same city, it's really hard. So you figure, I'll just go down to the local art institute store, school, and find an artist. And even I challenged myself and tried to do that before, and it didn't work out like it was. So it's just the internet. So you're on a web forum, or you're on a website like DeviantArt or Instagram or something. You see a guy's art, and you're like, let me contact this person and see what they feel about it. And then when you look at other books and you say, this colorist or this guy looks good, let me reach out to them and see if they're interested in doing some stuff. So, I mean, without the internet, I don't think you could pull this stuff off, because we're dealing with a team that's international. So we've got Mark, who's in the Philippines, Luis is in Mexico, and then only James and I are in the United States.
Oh, wow. So it definitely is a collaborative effort, and worldwide too. So,
yes.
So were you always like a comic book fan growing up?
So I would say I cut my teeth on G.I. Joe and Robotech. So those were my avenues into the animated action genre. And I cite Robotech a lot, because it was the first animated show where you saw people die. And it changed you as a thing, because right after you watch Roy Fokker sit on the couch and bleed out, or you saw Ben get shot up, or you saw the SDF-1 get destroyed and all hands die. Then you go into the Transformers the movie, and you have to watch Optimus Prime die.
Right.
It's something that this character you've been watching on the show for years, and then all of a sudden they're dead. And it wasn't just Optimus Prime; they're just killing everybody in this movie. And you know why they were doing it, because they wanted to have new toys. But it's still like you grew accustomed to seeing these characters, and all of a sudden they're just dying. You're like, this is a cartoon. This is like Bunny and Elmer Fudd and all this stuff. They don't die; they get shot.
Yeah, and they come back next week. Yeah,
they come right back. No, they're dead and they're gone. And like, wow, this is different. So from there, I got into comics, reading G.I. Joe, because G.I. Joe was the only thing that had a commercial. After the episodes, you would see that commercial and continue the adventure with G.I. Joe comics. And like, that's cool. And that's when they had spinner racks. So you can go to your local grocery store, Giant Eagle, or the old 5 and Dimes, McCrory's and Murphy's in downtown Pittsburgh. And there was a spinner rack, and you spin the rack around and it had comics on it.
Oh, yeah.
So you got G.I. Joe from there. And then from G.I. Joe, you go into Captain America. From Captain America, you go to Avengers, and then you meet the X-Men. And
Right.
and the X-Men was so much, it was so different and than the other, like the Avengers and Captain America, because they were outcasts. And none of the characters trusted the X-Men. They always thought that
Right.
they were evil or they were up to no good because they were mutants. And that was the one thing that always stuck with me with that book. And I started following X-Men, and I started reading like Mutant Massacre, Fall of the Mutants, Into Inferno. And then as you're reading these books, you start to get used to these certain creators. So you got your Claremont and your Jim Lee, you got your Silver Stride, you got Rob Liefeld, and then all of a sudden Image out of nowhere. And you were reading in the catalog and they were talking about it, and it was like Image Comics, the New Mutants stories. I'm like, mutants? Mm-hmm. This is more X-Men stuff? What is it? This is something different? What's going on? And then you find out these guys are like, forget everything that you knew about Marvel and DC. We're going out on our own, and we're going to do our own.
Wow.
And it was such an amazing thing that the creatives were able to create their own things and say that we don't need Marvel, we don't need DC. We're going to do our own thing out here in the world, and it worked. And as a person who I wasn't really into create, I just like to read books. I'm like, man, that seems interesting to me. Like it's possible for someone to create their own characters and have their own thoughts and their own things, and not be telling someone else's story pretty much, or being able to say that I'm going to tell this story for multiple issues and no one else can come in and take over for me, like happened with like X-Men and things like that. It wasn't always Claremont and Jim Lee. There was other people involved in that, and they all had their own ideas and their own thoughts. Like you think like Claremont wanted to kill Wolverine off. He wanted him gone.
Right.
And Marvel said, no, you can't kill Wolverine. Like we're just raking money in with this character. You can't kill him off. No, get out of here. And he quit because of that. He didn't want to write the story anymore because he wanted Wolverine out of the way, because he wanted other characters to have the spotlight. As long as Wolverine is there, Wolverine is going to be the focus of all the books. And you saw that as it transitioned to those movies, Wolverine's still the focus. So Claremont was like, all right, get rid of Wolverine or I'm done. So they didn't. He walked. So you sit there as a person, you're like, oh man, let me see if I can try my hand at this. And you start doing it, and it's not very good. So, and you think about, I still want to do this. So what do I need to do to get better? So you're either reading more comics, you're reading more books, you're finding out who you are in this process. And like I said, it took a long time before I thought that I could tell a complete and total really good story. And issue number 1 is that in spades. I believe is that it's some of the best stuff that I've written in my life, and it only feels like it's getting better, and I'm getting more confident and more experience as I go telling these stories, and people seem to love it, so I want to keep doing it.
Exactly. I remember like the first comic that I read when you were touching upon characters dying, the death of Superman.
Yes.
And how it was just like the flag and it was all dark. And I was just like, that can't be, like Superman's been around forever. Like, why would you kill him? That's silly.
Well, I mean, I understand what they were trying to do with that. And I think that it didn't really push forward after that, because you have to take that powerful character off the board. And what should happen when you take a powerful character off the board, all the other characters have to step into that role and become that character. So it's not just Superman, it's Batman, it's Green Lantern, it's Green Arrow, it's Wonder Woman have to be that Superman. And I think that's where that story kind of fell off to the side, was you didn't do the world without a Superman. You figure if the world without Superman, Green Lantern could never leave Earth. He couldn't patrol his sector because Superman is gone, and every villain in the entire universe would come and attack the Earth. Every single one of them would be like, he's gone. Superman is dead. Let's do it. Yeah. Let's take over.
Yeah, it left everybody vulnerable.
Yes.
But how long does it take you to write the whole story out for each issue?
Like I said, it depends. I mean, I've been kind of poking at this one story for like 4 months now. And it keeps evolving as I go, because like I look at a lot of science news, and I try to see what's going on in science. And we actually there's that collider that they use to like try to open portals to other universes. That's just a pretty simple answer to this thing that they've created. And we actually have a character go and smash it because he wants to get the energy that's pushing out. And there's going to be consequences to that. Everything in the book is based around consequences. And when I'm sitting down to write something and I hear something on the news, I'm like, man, that sounds interesting. Is there any way I can interject this into the story? So it ends up making me refocus how I'm doing the story, which makes it take longer for me to finish it. And I got an email from Mark the other day because I told him I had a script coming for him, and he's like, "Well, where's the script, man?" And I'm like, "It's coming." I went back and I had to make a few changes. I apologize, but this happens continuously with us, where he's like, "Where's the new material at, man?" And I'm like, "It's coming. I'm sorry."
But so was there concern when the pandemic started? And, because you sell a lot of your books at conventions, how am I going to keep this project going?
Yeah. So, yes. So back last year, we were actually working on issue 10 of the book, and we were going to do a release at New Dimension in the Waterfront. Mm-hmm. So I got a call from the general manager saying this was going to be in March. We were going to do this release. And he said, we can't have anyone in the store. We have to cancel it. So I'm sitting there with issue 10, and then I end up getting in contact with Second Sight Publishing, who were getting ready to get started, and they were going to be doing release through Diamond. So I end up linking up with them, and then we re-released issue 1, but it was a brand new issue 1 no one had ever seen before, because we had went ahead and redrawn and recolored and relettered the whole entire book. And I didn't know at the moment why I wanted Mark to redo that. There were just a little couple of things that I wanted to change, but it didn't really mesh with what was done before. So we decided to do the whole book all over again. So we actually lucked out with having a brand new issue with a brand new publisher and a brand new release. But not only did that kind of stymie us, the original tagline for the book was "The Infection Spreads." So immediately I had to drop that tagline, because I thought it was in bad taste at the point in time. It's like, man, this is such a good tagline. The edge is a drug, but it turns into like a disease somewhat, and it's being spread around the world. I'm like, oh, jeez. Yeah, drop it. Yeah, drop it. I mean, no one had to tell me to drop it. I just thought to myself, I was like, no, I can't use this anymore. And I'm hoping that eventually I'll be able to bring it back, but possibly not. So, I mean, it's always in the thought of, okay, so now we have to come up with a new tagline. So it's either you're on the edge or you're going to the edge or something edge there. But Infection Spreads had to go.
And you have an upcoming appearance at Mountaineer Comic-Con, September 24th, 25th, and 26th. And what kind of merchandise will you have available at that convention?
So we'll have both issue 1 and issue 2. I've got new covers coming in for issue 2, so I'll have the original covers. Unfortunately, we're not going to have issue 3 until possibly Three Rivers Con in October. So, they're doing the Three Rivers Con outside of the Dimension down in the Waterfront again, October 16th and 17th. So I should have issue 3 for that show.
And how much do the books run for anybody that's interested in purchasing one?
So the con exclusive books are $5 and the regular ones are $4. They are up on my Eswood site. If anyone misses me at conventions or anything, you can always get the books from my website directly from me. If you have a local LCS, local comic store, they are available through previews, the Diamond preview. So if your store isn't carrying it, you can always contact me on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter and let me know. And I will personally call that store and ask them why they don't have the edge.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank Marvin for being my guest on Dan-A-Plooza. My next guest is Renz McKenzie. and he'll be on here at 6 o'clock. I'd like to thank everybody and keep supporting The Edge. If you're at Mountaineer Comic Con, pick up a comic book, or if you go to Three Rivers Con, also pick up an Edge comic book. Everybody, have a good day.